One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur, where we may go on about anything or even in the vicinity of being psychotic, ghostly, or independent. Today we are going to go on about a sequel to a 1960 film. It's not directed by Alfred Hitchcock, but it is directed by Richard Franklin. And here in the room with me, I have my friend Boris. Hello, Boris.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No problem. So, to, this particular film was filmed in 1983, which is basically 23 years later than the original film. And it just so happens that the synopsis of the film has has Norman Bates. Well, the film is called Psycho 2. And here is what IMDb says about the film before we go into our first impressions. So, after 22 years of psychiatric care, Norman Bates attempts to return to a life of solitude, but the specters of his crime and his mother continue to haunt him. So, what were your first thoughts of this film?
Well, I have to say it was, in my opinion, a very good sequel to the first movie. The fact that it was made so much later, like 23 years later, I think, and they managed to incorporate that time difference into the story, and uh, the story itself is a very good psychological thriller, in my opinion. Since the movie is called Psycho, and it's a sequel to the one from 1960, it all had to deal with Norman Bates' issues with his deceased mother, and since he was supposedly cured during those 20 years, I think this is a very well written story, very plausible about what might have happened to him after he left the psychiatric hospital and everything. And it was a very good thriller and a very good mystery story. It was keeping me on edge until the end. I really enjoyed it.
I think so too. I think that this particular sequel. I mean, I love the fact that two of the characters from the original film are reprising their roles. Um, we've got Anthony Perkins, relatively older, and he's still able to pull off that almost innocence, innocence of his crime. No, and it seems like he's down to earth. He still acts like the young boy that we or young man that we saw in the first film, although he was much younger. uh,
Oh
but
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, he seems like he's oblivious to what he may or might have done originally. Um, well, let's look at the plot. I I relatively enjoyed this sequel. Um, I had somewhat forgotten the details until I'd watched it with you yesterday. But now that have, I feel like it's a fairly decent addition to the Psycho story to continue it. I mean, 22 years is actually quite a long time for a man to be incarcerated in any facility, whether it be jail or a psychiatric ward. And uh, well, we have a doctor who is pretty much uh, considers that he has cured um, Norman Bates, and he's putting him out into polite society. He set him up with a job. And what do you think about the job that he has been given? Do you think that it seems to be a good setting for him starting out in the community?
Well, that's an interesting question. Maybe it wasn't really the best choice regarding the fact that he had to use knives there, which is very clear that knives are a part of his emotional traumas from earlier, and they could trigger bad memories. Since he was stabbing people when his mother personality would take over. So yeah, I think maybe it wasn't the best choice for his first job. But what got even more of my attention in that regard is the fact that he went to live in the Bates Motel in the first place. Like I think that was a mistake for someone who is as mentally fragile as him. I think he shouldn't have gone to live there where it all happened in the past.
Oh yeah. It seems to be a local a local cafe that seems to serve like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like a local hop for the city, and it being that it's a cook's assistant position, it seems to be a busy a place. What do you think about the character of his boss and the people that he seems to work with?
Well, actually, we didn't really get to know them too much from what I remember, except for Mary and a certain other character who we are probably going to mention later. But the boss and those other people, well, like I said, they didn't really get too much screen time from what I remember. But I guess they were they were normal people reacting naturally to having someone like Norman in their workplace and with everything that's been going on. For example, when he finds a note from his dead mother and then it's suddenly no longer there, it's natural that that their first thought would be that he was imagining it or something rather than that someone is doing it on purpose to drive him crazy.
Well, and that's when we kind of get introduced to another character played by Meg Tilly, a character called Mary,
Oh yeah.
and she's an interesting character because she definitely seems like she's acc- accident prone.
Yeah,
She evidently has been there for what 4 days or whatnot, and
I think
she
so.
has broken probably how many dishes?
Uh, I forgot how many, but yeah, it was said that she was very prone to breaking items in the diner.
And it's upon one of these breaking of dishes that um, Norman Bates does in fact cover for her, um, and that's kind of how his relationship starts with her. He starts kind of innocently, and it kind of seems like she's having boyfriend issues, at least at first. We are not aware of her other circumstances until
Oh,
later.
oh yeah.
But what do you think about the fact that you know after the day gets done and she ends up having no place to go in the rain. Did you think much of that the fact that he offered and she refused at first and um,
Uh, Yeah, that was an interesting scene because I mean he has been in the psychiatric hospital for 2 decades, so his social skills are probably not the best, and I realized that in that moment he just wanted to offer his help and he wanted to be kind, but the way he presented himself in that moment could have come off as a bit invasive, which he wasn't aware of that at the moment, but to her it could have seemed that way, although on the other hand, she actually knew exactly what she was getting herself into, which we found out later.
well, and she came off as kind of standoffish at first, like she didn't really want to impose upon him at first, which made me curious as to how she was able to pull off the whole scenario that we found that she was part of later, which we'll get to.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I um, I think that the situation that she presented Norman with by being on the phone constantly and arguing with this person, like like he was her boyfriend, and I'm not even sure if she had a boyfriend at any given point in time. It seemed like she had a boyfriend. Um,
Oh, well, yeah, now that you say it, it was left a bit ambiguous in the end. We didn't get to know, we didn't see him, so he may or may not have existed. We know that some parts of what she said weren't true, but
well,
about this we don't
obviously, no
know.
boyfriend came into the scene when she was shot to pieces in the end.
Oh.
So I would assume if there were some kind of a boyfriend in her life,
Oh,
he would
yeah.
have shown up at the scene or been like, "What the fuck, man? I mean, we I know we were arguing and shit, but how the hell did this happen? So,
Indeed.
um, um, she ultimately she goes with him, um, and he runs into the person who is managing his motel. What did we think about that, Mister Toomey?
Toby, I think. Yeah. Well, at first, when things started to get strange, I suspected it might be him who is doing things behind Norman's back, but then again, it would have been too obvious if it was him.
So
Uh,
apparently, Mr. Warren Toomey is evidently playing manager to his hotel, and he was hired by the hospital to take care of the place, but he has run it into uh, a place of ill repute, where it goes into territories of um, adult stuff and
Mm,
drugs and things of that nature, which totally go against how Norman Bates was brought up. I mean, he was brought up to that drugs were illegal and things were bad that way. That's not how you run a motel.
yeah.
So
Well, I wouldn't.
what does he do? In fact, that day
Well, he fires Mr. Toomey, which makes sense. I mean, if that was my place and if I found out someone was doing that, especially without me knowing about it, I wouldn't be happy either.
neither would I. So I think what he did, no matter how psychotic he was at one point in time, I would have done the same myself. Although I probably would have done a little bit more than Norman did when he came to the cafe and basically presented himself as an asshole.
Well, yeah, he definitely did.
Because it was like the next day that he came and taunted Mary with some sexual
Oh,
advances and some lewd
yeah.
comments. What did you think about that scene, that whole scenery there? Was that necessarily needed?
Well, good question. I mean, in that scene, he made himself a stereotypical example of a sexual harasser, and I think the way she responded to him was pretty good when she said something like, when he asked what Norman was like in bed, and despite of the fact that she had not slept with Norman, she said he was better than you will ever be. That was
Yeah, I think it even went to the point where he's better than your little penis will ever be, or something of effect.
no, she
Which was
called him a fat boy, I think. And although I don't normally approve of weight shaming or anything like that, like if someone is overweight, it's not really their fault. But since the guy was really an asshole and he was sexually harassing her, he kind of deserved a response like that.
and one of the things that Norman is well known for is offering ladies sandwiches when they come over to his home. Um, I swear to God, every single time it was grilled cheese sandwiches. What do you think?
Uh, yeah, now I will probably be reminded of him after watching these movies.
But since he's invited Mary over to stay, she um, is provided a sandwich, and I thought it was like grilled cheese sandwich that he offered
Uh,
the first time, and then later it came when he had gotten confused.
uh,
um, he was able to hug Mary, and he said she smelled like what?
like, I think he mentioned some sandwiches that his mother was making for him when he was a little boy. I can't remember exactly how he worded
Cheese
it.
and toast sandwiches, which is basically
Ah.
grilled cheese, which is why I keep making the comments about grilled cheese, because now he thinks that that she smells like grilled cheese, that which his mother used to make. So,
Yeah, which is actually interesting because in
except he didn't call it grilled cheese. It was like uh, cheese and toast sandwiches.
uh, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because in that moment she was kind of holding him in a motherly way, which I think, although it wasn't her intention, it may have made his whole mother trauma even worse.
At the cafe, he met another character called Mrs. Spool, which eventually she comes into play later on too.
Oh,
What do you think about Mrs. Spool?
well, I have to say, the very first time I was watching the movie, when she appeared the first few times, she had a really small role. I didn't even pay so much attention to her. So when she appeared in the end, I kind of had to think, wait, who was she? Spool sounds somewhat familiar, but at first I couldn't even recall at which point in the movie she had appeared beforehand.
Well,
But then
yeah, and not only that, at the cafe, at the part where Toomey showed up, um, there was an interesting a little scenario where apparently there are orders that go up on the spindle so that Norman can read off the orders that come in, and
yeah.
someone evidently wrote a note as his mother, uh, as saying, "Don't let that bitch in my house again," or some shit like that.
Uh, yeah, I don't remember which word exactly, but bitch, whore, slut, one of those words, I
Yeah,
think.
don't let that whore in my house again, or something like that.
Yeah,
So he gets all disgruntled because he swears it was his mother who left him the note, but he was also accusatory towards Mr. Toomey. But ultimately, Mr. Toomey, what happened to him?
well, he got stabbed to death by a person whose face we didn't see at that moment, and I would say it's a very interesting part of the movie because it kind of makes us wonder whether Norman's other personality is coming back or if someone is doing this to frame him or something. Like my first
Hey,
thought was,
Horrible.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, someone said, "Hey guys."
Oh, yeah, so at first I did think that it probably wasn't Norman, but then again I thought it might be him as a part of some plot twist that would maybe come later on. But yeah, I did think it probably wouldn't be him, and
Well,
uh,
ultimately, Ellie, did you feel bad for Mr. Toomey, or did you think that he deserved it?
well, I would say he deserved a few good punches in the face, but not death.
I would say, yeah, no one fully deserves death unless by judge and jury.
Uh,
But he definitely did need a good beating, if anything else. He needed to be taught a lesson.
yeah,
And unfortunately, someone thought murder, but instead. Now, we also get in the very beginning, Vera Miles comes back as the sister to the original sister from the first film. She comes back into play when the courts actually release Norman Bates to the public, and she's has this petition that's been signed by many people that are against his being released. And she is basically told to shut the hell up or get out of the courtroom because that petition means nothing in the eyes of the courts. And she storms out of the place, basically stating, well, then it's on your hands if he begins to murder her again. But she even goes even further, by evidently, who did we find out was her daughter?
Very well. That was a pretty good plot twist. I mean, when the question was who is trying to drive Norman crazy again, I did suspect Lila, but then again, I thought maybe it's not her. It would probably be too obvious since she's the only one who outright hates him. But then, yeah, I thought it might be her. Like it would make sense for it to be her, but I didn't expect Mary to be a part of that. That was pretty
Not
unexpected.
at first, because she'd already been at the cafe for quite a few days. So at first you didn't think about that you thought that she was innocent. I mean, she was kind of a klutz. So the fact that he left the cafe and still continued to be her friend, and then um, um, began to have plans for his motel or whatnot, which is all fine and dandy. The cafe was just a spot for Norman to get back into polite society, but he didn't really like the way that Toomey was running the place, and so so on and so forth. But let's see. Oh, the doctor. Um, the doctor is in fact played by a character that I have seen before. Let's see. And before I go into the doctor, the doctor's name is Dr. Bill Raymond, and he's played by Robert Loggia, and he's been in many different things. He was in Big as McMillian. He was in Lost Highway as Mr. Eddie or Dick Laurent. He was Frank Lopez in Scarface. He played General William Gray in Independence Day, and so
Oh,
on and so forth. I mean, he's got quite a few films under his belt, some TV series, but he was originally on the Hardy Boys Nancy Drew Mysteries stuff. He was on 4 episodes of the Rockford Files. He was on several episodes of the $6 Million Man, 1 episode of the Bionic Woman, Arthur Haley's The Money Changers. Let's see. He was on the Ellery Queen thing. He was on the Wild Wild West from the 1960s. He was on a TV series called The Cat as T. Hewitt Edward Cat. He was on 1 episode of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I'm just mentioning quite a few of the. So he was in quite a few television series in when he first started, and he just ended up becoming different characters, and he was Bruno Langlois in Trail of the Pink Panther right before this film, and he was in Curse of the Pink Panther as well after that. And Streets of Justice, he was in Alfred Hitchcock Presents in the 80s. Armed and Dangerous, he was Michael Carlino. Over the Top, he was Jason Cutler. Hot Pursuit, he was Mick McLaren. And The Believers, he was Lieutenant Sergeant McTaggart. And so on and so forth. But he was also Sykes in the Disney movie Oliver and Company. So he's been in quite a lot. So
He did.
Meg Tilly, who plays Mary, she's been in quite a few things too, especially in the 80s. But I think she didn't have as big of a film career as I thought she might have. But see, she was in Agnes of God as Sister Agnes. She was in The Big Chill as Chloe. She was in Impulse as Jennifer. She was in Tex as Jamie Collins. She was in One Dark Night as Julie Wells. She was in Fame as a principal dancer. She was in the TV series Caprica as a mother. She was in The Two Jakes as Kitty Berman. She was in The Girl in the Swing as Karen. She was in Masquerade as Olivia Lawrence. And recently in 2016, she was Lorna. She was Lorna in Antibirth. And I guess she was in a TV series called Bomb Girls, where she was Lorna Corbett in 2012 to 2013, and then a TV movie called Bomb Girls Facing the Enemy. So, other than that, she was in this particular film. So she was in quite a few things. It's just, her career just kind of stopped after the 90s. So, Winnetka Road, she played George Grace. But in any case, Anthony Perkins, well, since the original Psycho, he's played in a few things that I know of too. I know he played in a version of. Let's see. I know he played in Psycho 2, Psycho 3, Friendly Persuasion. I know he played in. Let's see. Oh, here, a TV movie of The Sins of Dorian Gray, The Black Hole, as Dr. Alex Durant. Oh, that was a Disney movie too. That was the original Black Hole. But I'll have to rewatch watch that. I don't remember him being in there. Let's see. He played in a version of Les Miserables, which means the miserable in French. Very cool. And he played in Murder on the Orient Express, Catch-22 as Chaplain Tapman, The Champagne Murders, The Trial, Phaedra, Goodbye Again. Before Psycho, he played On the Beach, Green Mansions, The Matchmaker, The Seawall, the Tin Star, The Lonely Man, Fear Strikes Out.
Ooh.
But he did start out in a movie called The Actress. So that was in 1953. And then he was in several TV series after that.
Ooh.
So, yeah. It was ultimately in a TV miniseries called For the Term of His Natural Life as Reverend James North. The Glory Boys as Jimmy from 1984. Napoleon and Josephine, A Love Story, a TV miniseries from 1987. Edge of Sanity, where he played Dr. Henry Jekyll and Jack the Ripper Hyde.
Oh, wow.
Daughter of Darkness, where he in 1990, where he played Anton and Prince Constantine. I'm Dangerous Tonight from 1990 as Professor Buchanan. The Ghost Writer from 1990 as Anthony Strack. Psycho 4: The Beginning as Norman Bates. A Demon in My View with Arthur Johnson. And The Naked Target. Let's see, if I remember correctly, I have him in a movie with trying to see if it's on here, but I thought I had him in a movie that had Charles Bronson in it as well, which was a very interesting pairing with Anthony Perkins and let's see if this was it. No, it was not. That's from 1992. The last movie that he was in 1992, called In the Deep Woods. But the one that I'm thinking of, trying to find. Oh, he was in a movie called How Awful About Alan. And he was in Pretty Poison. Let's see. Maybe if I went to Charles Bronson real quick. But anyways, as the plot goes on, what did you think about the house? Did you think that it was the same house as in the original film? Do you think that they
Well,
used the same?
I didn't quite do a side-by-side comparison, but they do look quite similar. I think maybe it even was the same one. Uh, I liked it a lot. I like all these statues and everything, all these ornaments we see in the house. That's pretty cool.
Here it is. Yeah. Charles Bronson was in a movie with Anthony Perkins called Someone Behind the Door from 1971. I thought it was an It was the only pairing of them together, and it was
Ooh.
where a neurosurgeon with a cheating wife takes an amnesiac into his home and conditions him to believe that the cheating wife is his own and to take the appropriate action.
Oh, interesting.
It was an interesting movie. I mean, to have Charles Bronson and Anthony Perkins in the same movie, I thought was a
Yeah,
strange pairing.
indeed.
So, but in any case, let's see. What did we think about the doctor? Doctor, I believe
Mm,
Richard Bayland, or
Uh, With the doctor in Psycho too.
Yeah, the Doctor in Psycho too.
Doctor Raymond.
Correct.
Uh, well, he was a pretty tragic character in the end when we know what happened to him.
Yeah, it
Uh,
seemed like he was just looking out for Norman's best interests, and it was kind of an accidental murder by Mary's part. She thought that
yeah,
that it was Norman that had come behind her.
yeah. She thought he was going to attack her, and she impulsively attacked him with a knife and accidentally killed him.
Well, and she was dressed up as Norman's mother again
Yeah.
to try to force Norman into to understanding that it wasn't his real mother, and yet we kept seeing Norman kept getting phone calls from his apparent mother, and we found out that some of it was, in fact, Mary's mother, who was doing some of the calling. But the doctor was calling him to uh, tell him about, how he would prove that if he actually had come to the house and and actually came to the basement, and he said if he could prove that it was in fact her and her mother that were calling and saying that acting like his mother, would he would he believe that his mother was dead? You know,
Uh, yeah, they eventually dug out her coffin to show him her dead body.
correct. And so um, that kind of dumbed down some of it. But then he got another call from what we thought was the doctor, but he kept talking in the phone like he was talking to someone else at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's when he started talking about, well, I wasn't talking. I know that my mother is dead, but I was talking to my real mother.
Uh,
and,
yeah.
and we were like, well, what the hell? As far as we knew, he only had one mother.
Yeah, at that point I thought his other personality was coming back, or maybe in some different form or something. But yeah, I definitely didn't expect there really would be another mother in the end.
Which is why when he was talking to that supposed real mother, when he was saying, "But I don't want to kill her," that's when she went up the stairs to try to convince him that wasn't his mother, that she thought it was her mother, but she didn't realize that somebody had already killed her mother.
Oh.
Who do we think killed her mother? In fact, her mother came back to the house, and that's how the doctor came through to talk to Norman to begin with, because he'd followed um, Mary's mother into the house.
Mm, yeah, well, at that point I didn't know whom to suspect. Until then, it seemed like Mary's mother was behind it all, but then there evidently was another killer when someone killed Mary's mother, and
Which is why I think that this movie was a very good second, because it made you start to think one way when it was a completely different person that was perpetrating some of the things that were happening. which we
definitely.
found out in the end that Mrs. Spool was in fact Norman's real mother. It's just she ferreted him away to her sister, and because she didn't think that she could take care of him properly, the way that a mother should. So
Oh, yeah, that actually explained a lot. I mean, from what I remember, she even mentioned something that she herself was, I don't know, was she institutionalized or was she in prison or
yeah, she
something
was
like that?
institutionalized for her craziness, I guess, for a little bit herself. So, um, and the fact that you know he offered her tea, he even offered her a sandwich. I wonder if it would have been grilled cheese.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that kind of makes us wonder. I mean, in the first movie, we found out that Norman lost his sanity, that he was a bit mentally unstable even before, but he completely lost his sanity when he killed his mother, well, his foster mother, which we found out here. But the very fact that he was mentally fragile in the first place, which pushed him to do what he did at the age of how old was he when he killed Norma Bates? 12 or something like that.
What did you think about this adult Norman Bates? Do you think that he played him to a T? Did you think that he was not Norman Bates, or do you think that he very much acted like the Norman Bates that we knew in the first one?
Well, it's the same actor, so yeah, I definitely didn't think he was unlike his original self. He played his role very well, in my opinion.
I think so too. I think he apprised it very expertly, and he can definitely um, play the psychotic very well. In fact, I did kind of like that moment where he was up there with Mary in the bedroom, and he was like, "I'm getting confused, aren't I?"
Uh,
And she was like, "No, Norman, don't you lie to me, not you."
uh, Yeah, that was a pretty intense moment because at that point we knew that she had actually lied to him more than anyone else.
Well, yeah. Um, and I think he started to figure that out even in his own madness, which is why he was going on the phone and whatnot. And he was trying to say, "But mother, I don't want to kill her. You can't make me."
Uh,
But
yeah.
I know that she would never hurt me.
Uh, yeah, well, it's interesting because at the beginning she did get involved in her mother's agenda against Norman, but then she regretted it and she didn't want to be a part of it anymore and she wanted to help Norman genuinely. But yeah, the whole thing had already happened the way it did, and since on one hand we had Mary's mother doing what she was doing, and on the other hand we had Mrs. Spool doing real murder. So it was only a matter of time until Norman would be pushed over the edge again.
Oh yeah. What did you think about the sheriff? He really didn't want to believe that Norman was capable of murdering again, did he? He thought
Yeah,
that the boy had been reformed.
mm, yeah. Well, that's actually interesting because uh, people usually tend to be more suspecting of people who have a history of committing
Instead, he
crime.
was
So
more
it was,
forgiving because he'd known him all his life or whatnot, and because the doctor said that he was saying again, it seemed like the people were more forgiving
Yeah.
of the murders, and yet the people that were more involved with the original murders, they were against it happening.
Y- Yeah.
But um, so I thought that there were some interesting scenes where you could see, to me, as far as Alfred Hitchcockian direction.
Oh, oh
There
yeah, I know
are
what you
some
mean.
camera angles that, to me, that were, even though this was not directed by Alfred Hitchcock, they used some camera angles that have been used before in an Alfred Hitchcock movie, where the camera was above, looking down below at the scene as um, Norman Bates was carrying his mother up the stairs and into her room. Um, that scene from above, that's been used in quite a lot of a lot of movies. In fact, there was one not too recently that I just recently saw where there was it was the story of a man that was trying to that had set up a murder for his wife through another person by blackmail. And the scene where he was talking to him was done at an angle from above, where he was showing him what he wanted him to do, how he wanted him to do it, and just the profile files from above. That's an angle that's been used in several of his films. I like that angle shot. That seems to, and though they didn't use um, angle in the original Hitchcock film, where that that private detective, when he fell down the stairs, that was a Hitchcockian shot that had been used before as well. So
Yeah.
when you saw him look like he was falling down the stairs very slowly, that was used in Vertigo, which I'll have to show that film to you eventually. But
Cool.
um, yeah. Uh, uh, what did you think about the whole plot in general?
Um, I would say it was very good and very unpredictable, which is what makes this movie so interesting, in my opinion. I mean, for the whole movie, we think, well, not for the whole movie, but at least at the beginning, when people start getting murdered, we think it's either Norman's other personality again, or it's another person trying to frame him, trying to drive him crazy or something. But we definitely don't expect it to be more than one person at the same time. And then we found out there was Mary's mother and Mary herself, which was the first great twist that I really didn't expect. And then we find out there is Mrs. Spool. So there turned out to have been three different persons behind what was happening to Norman. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
I
we even
definitely.
mentioned the fact that there was a couple that had ended up like starting to make out in the fruit cellar.
Oh yeah.
And what happened to them, or what happened to the young fella?
Well, they got attacked by the person who we eventually found out was Mrs. Spool, and the girl managed to escape, but the boy got stabbed to death. And actually, I must say, I don't fully understand why Mrs. Spool would do that, since in the end, when she confessed everything to Norman, she said she had been killing people who were trying to hurt Norman, and those kids weren't really trying to hurt anyone; they were just there smoking weed. So
Well, at
I
least when I think the reason why he had to die, at least in Mrs. Spool's mind, is because he was making comments about Norman being psychotic or whatnot, while they were in
oh
the fruit cellar. And
oh
he was making comments to the fact that um, you know, and I'm sure that Mrs. Spool overheard that while she might have been hiding within the house. So
I
um, anyone who says anything about her boy uh,
well,
in a negative light, has to
mm,
die.
well, that kind of explains it. I forgot they had been saying that.
But in any case, so ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know by now, we have spoiled probably the film. We probably should have said something about that before, but if you don't
Uh,
know anything about us in general, we will probably talk about the film until we're blue in the face. So that being said, um, what did you think about the production value of this film? Do you think that it was pretty cool?
yeah, yeah, I really liked it a lot. The movie was really good, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
What did you think about the special effects?
Oh, well, since the movie is much newer than the first one, the effects are also more realistic, more convincing, and they were pretty good.
I think so too. There were some camera movements that looked away, used some of those moments when the stabbings were happening, and the silhouette of the killer was very much like the silhouette that we saw in the shower scene in the original one.
Yeah.
So we got to see the killer in profile, uh, not knowing exactly who it was until the very end. And I think that if Mary hadn't been killed, I think that she really meant well for Norman. To be honest,
Uh, yeah, she definitely went well, but I think the way she was doing things wasn't really quite good. I mean, when she actually dressed up like his mother and appeared in front of him, like she did try to do a good thing, but I think that really wasn't a good way to do it regarding all the circumstances.
no, I don't think so either. But ultimately, Norman, what do you think about Norman now? Now that do you think that he can ever really be cured?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't seen the next two movies, but I actually hope he can be cured. I pretty much felt sorry for him at the end.
Even though he killed his mother?
Well, I guess when he found out that, I mean, in the first movie, he actually believed that his mother was the one who is killing people, and he was only covering up for her. And in this one, uh, in this one, when he found out there actually was another motherly figure who really was killing people for him, I guess that was what pushed him over the edge and made him do what he did. So,
So, if you had to pick a favorite scene from this film, what would you do? What would you take from it?
hmm, that's an interesting question because there were many scenes that I enjoyed the whole mystery unraveling, and there was a lot of suspense, which was my favorite aspect of the movie. But if I had to pick one scene, uh,
Alrighty, sorry.
Okay.
My connection went kaput. Puts.
Uh, I understand it happened with my connection too. I don't know when was it, 1 or 2 weeks ago, not sure.
Alrighty,
But
sorry about those 14 minutes of silence, folks. But we're just gonna end this with our favorite scenes. And sorry about the we had a connection problem. But um, so why don't you tell me your favorite scene?
yeah, I was just thinking what my favorite scene would be. Like I said, there was a lot of suspense in this movie, and I enjoyed every single one of those scenes. So, anticipating the final solution to the mystery. But if I had to pick only one scene, good question.
I would have
Well,
to say that my favorite scene was a little bit after um, Vera Miles' character had been killed off, and you actually see her head in, or at least part of her face, part of
oh, oh,
in the coals.
oh, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that was.
that is a very eerie scene to see, and after seeing it a couple of times, it's very vivid to me. I mean, you don't often see someone buried in coals.
Indeed. It,
What about yours, maybe?
whew, well, I guess I would have to go with the scene when we find out that Mrs. Spool was behind a major part of everything that had been going on, because that was the biggest shock, the biggest plot twist of the movie. So I guess I would go with that one. Like, in my opinion, there is no way anyone would ever suspect her, as she
No,
didn't.
she certainly seems like she would be like the most innocent out of them. Oh, hey, because she's
He,
like this little old lady, no, she's like your grandmother, that or that old lady that lives across the way that you just want to help her bring in her groceries all the time.
yeah, that, and there is also the fact that she was a very minor and irrelevant character. Like, throughout the movie, you don't even think about her. It's not like, could it be her? No, she's too innocent. It's not even like that, but she barely ever appears in the movie, and you don't even think about her character so much, and then suddenly.
Precisely. So I think the only thing that we didn't touch on really was the music,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the music is by Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
he never disappoints.
Jerry Goldsmith Smith has been part of a lot from what I know. I know the name. Just
Mm,
trying to look up some of his filmography here. He
yeah,
he has done in one episode of the new Star Trek, Picard. He did some of the music in Star Trek Enterprise, Inner Space 2. Let's see.
I
Let's
think he did one movie that we were discussing, but I can't remember which one it was.
Hercules from 1997, Air Force One, The Edge, Deep Rising, U.S. Marshals, Mulan, Small Soldiers, Star Trek Insurrection, The Mummy from 1999, Shiloh 2, Shiloh Season, The Haunting.
Oh,
The
That
13th
is
Warrior, The Kid, Along Came a Spider, Star Trek Voyager, The Last Castle, Big Fat Liar, The Sum of All Fears, Drawing First Blood, a video documentary short, Star Trek Nemesis. So I guess he's been part of the Star Trek universe. Looney Tunes Back in Action, Timeline, The Fear, Curious George, Confessions of a Teenage Supergirl, Rambo from 2008, Curious George 2, Follow That Monkey, Stealing Time, Survival, Despicable Me, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Hop, let's see, The Lost World short, let's see, going backwards on some of his stuff, The Ghost and the Darkness, Shiloh, Chain Reaction, Executive Decision, Powder, Congo, IQ, The River Wild, Disney's Young Musicians Symphony Orchestra, Speed, Star Trek The Next Generation, 176 episodes of that. 6 Degrees of Separation, Malice, Rudy, Dennis the Menace, The Vanishing, Forever Young, Love Field, Basic Instinct, Gladiator, some of the unused music in there, Medicine Man. Let's see, Gremlins 2, the new batch video game, The Russia House. He was Gremlins 2, the new batch. He was the conductor for the music behind Total Recall. And Warlock, Leviathan, The Burbs, Alien Nation, Criminal Law, Rambo 3, Rent-A-Cop, Lionheart, Inner Space, Police Story, the Freeway Killings, Extreme Justice, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, Hoosiers, Link from 1986, King Solomon's Mine, Legend from 1985, one of the earlier Tom Cruise movies, Explorers, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Runaway, Supergirl, Gremlins. So he was the conductor for both Gremlins. Twilight Zone, the movie. And Psycho 2, The Return from Man from Uncle, The Man Who Saved the World, First Blood, The Secret of Nim, Poltergeist. Let's see, he was the music behind the Waltons, the composer behind that series for a little bit. Barnaby Jones, Police Story, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. The original motion picture after the and The Great Train Robbery, Magic, The Boys from Brazil, The Swarm, Omen 2, Damien.
Oh yeah.
Coma, Capricorn 1, Contract on Cherry Street, MacArthur, Islands in the Stream, The Cassandra Crossing, 6 Characters in Search of an Author, The Omen. He was a music producer and an orchestrator on there. Logan's Run, The Last Hard Man, the Hemingway play, Break Heart Pass, Babe, A Girl Named Sooner, The Wind and the Lion, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, Archer, Breakout, Room 222, Tarzan the Mighty Man, composer for the Planet of the Apes film.
Oh, that one too.
Let's see, 100 Rifles, Planet of the Apes from 1968. Escape from Planet of the Apes as well.
Whoa.
Tora, Tora, Tora. That was a movie about the 1940 the bombing of Pearl Harbor, told from the Japanese angle. So I guess he was part of the music behind the Man from Uncle series and the Girl from Uncle, the Mouse from Hunger, the Flem Flam Man, the Helicopter Spies, the Karate Killers, In Like Flint, the Spy in the Green Hat, Jericho, One of Our Spies is Missing, the Blue Max, Seconds, Stagecoach, Dr. Kildare, The Trouble with Angels, The Loner, One Spy Too Many, Our Man Flint. So he was part of the spy generation as well as the Star Trek generation. So,
Wow.
the Satan Bug, Rio Concho's Fate is the Hunger Shock Treatment. That's the this is the Twilight Zone series. So he composed 50 music for 54 of the episodes from the original Twilight Zone. He did some Perry Mason episodes, Kane's 100, and the TV show Thriller. He did 18 episodes of that one. Boris Karloff was a host of a Twilight Zone episode-ish type thing called Thriller, and he would introduce the episodes, and at the end of the thing, he was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a thriller." So,
He really did a lot.
but yeah, I could say more, ladies and gentlemen, but I just wanted to say how much he was involved with, and he was involved with quite a lot. So having him on board for this movie was quite something. And the music, I think, went with. I think the music went with the film. I mean, it used some of the original music from the 1960s version, I think, in the very beginning when we see the shower scene. But other than that, I think it kind of had its own music from there on out.
Yeah, in the first movie, the music was really a huge part of the whole thing. It really made the movie what it is, and for the sequel, if for any reason they couldn't get the original composer to do it again, then there is probably no better other person to do it than Jerry Goldsmith. I have seen some other movies where he did the music, and yeah, I mean, I often, when I watch a movie for the first time, I often fail to pay attention to the background music, but his work is definitely special.
Well, especially if you haven't, if you've already seen the movie once, that then is when you actually pay attention to the music behind. And sometimes music is very recognizable, and depending upon the score, sometimes it can be recognizable of the style in which the music is done, the composition of the music.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, I think that's all. Unless you have anything else to add to the film and the plot wise, did we not mention anything? Oh, there was that one scene where they were pulling the car up, and
Oh.
that Mr. Toomey had been in, and they opened up the trunk and they were like, "Oh
Oh,
God!"
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think they said something like that. Uh,
But that was a little comical. But
yeah.
I think it was a well-rounded um, film because ultimately the sheriff didn't really believe that um, our buddy Norman did anything at all. So he was let go, and he came back to the house. And I love how how when uh, what's her name showed up.
Uh,
And she came in the door, and she was like, "What, you were so you were expecting me?" And he's
oh,
like, "Well, I was expecting someone."
oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the truth is, until the very end, when he killed his real mother, he really hadn't done anything before that.
That was another one that at the very end they used the above shot for when he actually knocked her on the head. I think they went from looking at her to being above
Uh,
really quick. I think
yeah, because
for when he took the shovel and he knocked her on the back of the head. You saw it from above. I think at an
yeah, and
angle.
when he was carrying her upstairs, which is I think that was a reminder to the first one where he was carrying his dead mother to the villa.
Oh yeah, and of course, then of course you hear supposedly his mother say, "Go open the motel. What do you think we're doing? We need to make money somehow."
Yeah,
Or something like that. But in any case, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. But definitely check the film out. It is definitely to us a very decent sequel to the original film. And if you can just skip over the moments where there is silence, please do. We had some technical difficulties, but you know what? We got through this, and we can be more psycho next week. So we are continuing the sequels of the Psychos films, or the films that are related to Psycho, and I hope that we will tackle them all. So, in any case, um, this is very much the slasher genre, at least some of the beginnings of it, of the slasher genre, the psychological dramas uh, of their time, and I think they need to be talked about. So, thank you for listening. Have
definitely.
a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are.
Yeah, thank you
And
for listening.
please keep a knife by your bedside for the typical night intruder. If you ever happen to wake up in the middle of the night and decided to go,